Hello, readers. Welcome back to The Adulterous Whore. I'm your host, Stacey. I'm sorry about the gap in episodes over the last week. I didn't do the toppling TBR on Saturday, and I didn't do any episodes on Tuesday and Friday of last week because I had my operation on Tuesday, and I've only just started to feel like a regular human being. I was reading Tower of Dawn. I was making notes, and I came to read my notes yesterday and realized I have no idea what I was trying to say. I have no idea what actually happened. So I'm having to go back and read them again. So I was really in no fit state to be doing anything, not reading, not talking to you guys, nothing. So as today is Truth and Reconciliation Day, I had decided already that I was going to do an episode on independent authors or small published authors. So I have given it the affectionate name, the Lit Indie Files. See what I did there? And it just so happens that I had actually received a copy of a book called Procession. I was blown away with actually how well written it was because I don't read a lot of poetry. So when I actually received a copy of this, I was like, I could totally give that a go. You know what I mean? And I really enjoyed it. Like, if you look at the cover is spectacular. Like, absolutely spectacular. And I like poems that when you hear the poem in your head, when you read it out loud even, that you can actually hear the voice of the author ringing through loud and clear. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with poetry for the most part, is that I can't hear a unique enough voice. So I actually stopped bothering with poetry quite some time ago because I really felt that there wasn't really anything uniquely identifying in the poems. So it really wasn't something that I was excited about. But this one really hit the nail on the head for me. So the poems kind of go through this whole past to future in the way it's written out, like an unlived chronological order. And it was really intriguing, I'm not gonna lie. And it had this like really witchy feel to it. Like some of the poems had like the tone of like that. We are women, we stand proud, and we do this and we do that. And I really enjoyed that about that. Now, one of the poems that I really liked from the book, it was about photographs. And you might be wondering, you're like, Stacey? But it was like, the part of it was like faces, echoes, familiarity, names lost. And that really sat with me because the amount of times, like as an older person, in my 40s, I go through old photographs. And if I haven't written something on the back, and I'm like, who the fuck was that? Like, no word of a lie. This happened to me recently because I'm going through a bunch of old photographs to send my dad. And I'm like, who the fuck's this person? I even had a birthday card from somebody. I was like, lots of blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, who the hell are they? So that really resonated with me. And I'm sure it's probably happened to you as well, where you're like, that face is not ringing a bell. My memory is fuzzy, to say the least. So because I find poetry to be something really unique, so you get something really unique from it as a reader, I think it has to really sing to your soul for you to connect with it on a really personal level. And for me, this Indigenous author really did a really great job of that. Her name is Calessandra Vermetti. And I thought this was a really good book to share as it's Truth and Reconciliation Day today here in Canada to start off my episode. Now, before I jump into the rest of the things I've been doing with my indie files this week, I'm going to let you know what you can find out in the wild today because it is Publication Day. I had to put myself on a bloody book buying ban because I'm so behind on my TBR, gotten a little crazy. And you think, well, Stacey, you've had all this time off to read. No, Stacey was pretty much out of it on drugs that Stacey does not remember any of the stuff she's been getting up to this week. But I'm going to let you know what you can find out in the wild today, even though I can't buy any of them. And the first book that you can find out in the wild today is 25 Days per Jacobson. And that one is a holiday thriller. The next one you can find is A Game of Fallen Stars by S.E. Berkeley, and that one is a paranormal romantasy. Next, you can find A Mannequin for Christmas, and this one is by Timothy Janovsky. That one is a holiday romance. Next, you can find A Match Made in Hell, and that one is by Charlotte Ingham. That one is a young adult romantasy. The cover looks so cool. So cool. Now, this book's already been released before, but A Song to Drown Rivers, and that one is by Anne Lang. They've literally just released today the paperback with the sprayed edges. And I'm making note of this because I actually really enjoyed the book and I really want this book. And I'm hoping it's a fantasy that I can convince my husband that I deserve this book after going through the operation I had. Honey, please. Please. We'll see. Next is Against All Odds by Corinne Michaels, and that one is a contemporary romance. I've been seeing this one all over Bookstagram. Highly recommend it. The next is Before December by Joanna Marcus, and that one is also a contemporary romance. Are you seeing a theme? Are you? Next is Berserker Vengeance by Asha Marie Bradley, and that one is also a paranormal romantasy. Next is Bitten by Jordan Stephanie Gray, and again, this one has already been released. They've just released their luxury edition of the book. Again, romantasy. And I'm so close to buying it. And I'm like, you can't. You're on a ban for a reason, Stacey. And you have to clear at least 10% of the books that you have stockpiled. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, that doesn't sound like too many. It's a lot. A freaking lot. So, yeah. Not pleased with myself. And the last one you can find out there is Bitter Burn by Sierra Simone. And this one is a erotica. And the only reason that I even mention this book is because it's a trilogy. And apparently it's so spicy that it will literally make a prostitute blush. Yeah. So you might want to add that to your TBR today. Okay. So I decided a little while back that I wanted to concentrate on finding authors that are independently published, or maybe they have found a smaller publishing house to put their books out there. And you have to understand with those small publishing houses, they have virtually no marketing budget. So if you think about publishers like St. Martin's Press and Penguin, you'll see them sending out ARCs out the wazoo. You'll see them putting ads up on Facebook, Instagram, you name it, Book Talk. I even saw a few for, what book was that? There was one today that I saw on TikTok and I'm like, yeah, which is great when you have a marketing budget and you know you're going to get your money back. Now imagine being a very small publisher, even an independent publisher, and you know that there is a risk that your books won't get in the right hands because your marketing budget is really low. And I have a platform. Like, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but I'm close to 17,000 followers on Instagram. That's a lot of book people that I can potentially talk to about the beautiful writing that often comes with independent authors. And honestly, I think a lot of them probably deserve to have their presence put out there much more than even some of the big authors. Like, I don't know if you've ever read a book and you're like, oh my God, I love this author. I'm going to buy their backlist. I'm going to spend all my time and money following this person. And then they just start putting out crap because they've already built a name and a reputation that they can just sell kife. I kind of feel that way about Ali Hazelwood lately. I'm not saying that she's not a brilliant writer. I'm really not. But I feel like she moved away from where she started, which was like the STEM books, the romance STEM books. And she's moved into this almost unrecognizable genre of, it doesn't feel authentic to who she is anymore. And I don't know, the last couple of books I read of hers, I was not impressed, you know? So I even went as far as I probably, unless someone lends me one of her books, I probably won't spend any more money on her. I just don't like where she's going on her writing journey. But she's already built a reputation. She has her fans. She has the people that will buy her books anyway. Now imagine being an independent author. These people, these beautiful writers, don't make a lot of money from their craft. And they literally have to do their own marketing, their own social media management. They have to come up with a cover. They have to find someone to edit. And these are things that you have to pay for. Now imagine being an independent author and you're having to have a full-time job just so that you can pay to do the things that other authors take for granted. Now, I know it's a hard road in being a writer. I'm watching one of my friends right now write a book. She's sending me chapters. She is really talented. But imagine the uphill battle she'd have just trying to get her book in the right hands, how hard it's going to be, how much of a full-time job it's going to be just to market her book enough that she could even make, like, it's not even a minimum wage job. Like here in Canada, in Alberta, 30,000 is minimum wage. Most authors only make 8 to 10 a year. Like, that's pretty low. And they're working some serious amount of hours. So I want to do my part as somebody who has a fairly large platform to try and help other independent authors. I did this thing too where I put up an ad in my ARC readers group. So there's a bunch of indie authors, small published authors in a group, and they're looking for ARC readers. So I put an ad up. I was like, hey, I will read your book, I will review your book, and I'll have you on my show. And do you know that 9 times out of 10, I go, well, how much do you charge? No, sweetie. No, no, no. This is free. I do this for the love of books. I do not charge a penny to have you come on and talk to me. I do not charge anything to read your book, and I don't charge anything to review it. And I've got nothing against people that do that. I understand that for some people, this is a livelihood. This is their job. This is my obsession. Okay. We are not the same. It was actually really fortuitous, really, because I actually got a fairly nice stack of independent and small published authors in the recent weeks. And all but one I have finished. And I only haven't finished this one yet because I only just received it. Like, I only just got Jessica Sorensen's Keeping You Close. She actually contacted me because she saw one of my videos of another book that I did, and it was a friend of hers, and she asked me if I would do a trailer for her book, which I did. And then she sent me a copy of it, and so far I'm loving it. By the way, just guys, it's pretty damn good. So, but these ones I all finished. And I'm going to talk to you about the books, how I came in possession of the books, and what I thought about them as well. I'm going to start with the first one that I received, which was The Fruit Tree by Sabir Ahmed. So what he did was he wrote a book, a retelling of Adam and Eve. Okay. So Adam is this like shy kid and Eve is his most popular girl at school. And somehow their paths unexpectedly cross at school and they start to become friends, and gently and sweetly they move forward into something much more than friendship. Now, it was a really clever story. I thought that the idea of retelling the story of Adam and Eve in such a way where they've taken religion out of it. It's modern day. It's basically the story of them without the religious parts, and there's no good or evil getting involved in it. It's just their story of themselves. The only people they've got to blame for the good and the bad are each other, which I really enjoyed. And as you can see from the cover, I actually thought the cover was really clever. And one of the biggest problems I find with independent authors is sometimes their covers, you can see that they didn't have a lot of money to spend here, and that's okay. I 100% get it. But I actually thought that the cover was actually really well done. So that was a real big plus for me. So even if I hadn't liked the book, it would still go up on my shelf because it's pretty sexy. So I really did enjoy the plot. I thought that the concept of the Adam and Eve and having to take responsibility for their own actions, their own accountability, was very smart. Now, one of my biggest problems with this book was formatting. I don't, it's, I get that some people, it's a personal thing for some people with how they do their books, but look, okay, this is how you format things for school. This does not work for me at all. It didn't flow. It was too, you start too many sentences with the word he. There has to be another way to start a sentence because millions of other authors do it. So I kind of felt that it was like, he did this and she said that and there was this and blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel like anybody edited this book. And that's a real shame because it's actually there's some quite genius in the writing in this book. And I really felt for that. I think if somebody had polished this, if somebody had formatted it correctly, if somebody had just restructured some of the sentences to make it not feel so repetitive, I think that this would have been one of my favorite books of the year. Now, like I said, the rawness in the writing was there. I loved it. But I only gave it 3.5 stars. And I wasn't even really being generous. I felt like I really needed to do you a service by being legit in what I had to say about your work. Now, don't think that I didn't appreciate the writing because I did. I feel like when you're a writer, you need somebody there to catch the things that you miss, because I know I do it myself. Like I wrote an email the other day and I reread it and it sounded fine to me. And then my husband was like, you made so many mistakes in there, yo. I'm like, I checked it. No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. Okay, that happens because you kind of get this like blindness to your work. So I completely get it. And it really felt like somebody needed to just to read this for you and to polish it and to just to fix some of the mistakes. But all in all, like I really think you should keep writing, bro. Really good. Really don't give up. I was impressed. I was impressed. I cannot do what you did. I was impressed. Okay. And the next book that I got was The Lady and the Unicorn by Ophelia. Now, this one came out not that long ago, but I've had a copy of this book for a while. And it's basically about a girl, a woman, young woman, and she is not just running away. She feels like she's running to reinvent herself. And she meets this guy and they have all this passion and there's a lot of like chemistry going on there, but he is kind of keeping her at a distance. It's a little toxic, if you ask me, and he's keeping her at arm's length. Now, the book kind of it sets you up where you don't realize that the girl has bipolar and she starts to see things that she doesn't know whether they're real or not. And the guy is a big pivotal part of she doesn't know what's real and what's not with him. And I also noticed that the author had this habit of not using her name in there. Like because I read this a while ago and I reviewed it a while ago, I was like, I don't remember anyone using her name. And it kind of feels like the author is keeping you disconnected from your female MC. And I didn't like that. I really felt like if you're going to connect with an unreliable narrator, that you really should be able to understand who they are from a more personal perspective. And the book missed the mark for me on that. I did think it was a really interesting way to tell a story, like because we didn't know what was real and what wasn't to her. We were kept in the dark too. So what she was feeling, we were feeling. And I kind of enjoyed that. So as somebody who knows people with bipolar, psychosis is not something that happens to very many of them. And the level of psychosis in this book is a little wild in my personal opinion. I don't know if the author is drawing from her own experiences or whether or not she's drawing from what she thinks she knows about bipolar. And yeah, it was a little unsettling. It didn't ring quite realistic enough for me. And honestly, the writing went a little haywire for me, especially at the end. It felt rushed and discombobulated, and it wasn't well reasoned. Like, I could see the brilliance in what she was trying to accomplish, but there was no flow of the story. The pacing was a little slow. I don't know. I think this is just my personal opinion. I think she could have done more with the psychosis. Maybe have her doing things, like telling us that she's doing things, and the people's reactions don't feel right to MC. So she could have been like in a shop and she thinks she's putting canned vegetables in her shopping cart. And really, she's going around putting cans into other people's shopping carts, and people are reacting to what she's actually doing, not what she thinks she's doing. I really could have gotten on board with that. Now, it would have also been nice if maybe we'd had a second point of view of somebody who is seeing the realism of what's happening opposed to what's actually happening to her in her psychosis. That would have worked really well for me. I think had somebody come along and just polish this a little bit, I think this could have been a win. I really do. It's not that it's a bad book. I think that there were some things in here that didn't quite work and it really messed with the flow of the story. And that's a real shame because actually the writing is really good, well formatted. I thought the cover was absolutely incredible. The bones are here. The skeleton is here. Just needs a little to be fleshed out just a little more, okay? I gave it 3.5 stars. I ummed and ahed because 3.5, 3.75, maybe, I don't know. But there wasn't really glaringly obvious things wrong with the book. And I think if she could just maybe get it re-edited, maybe just round the story out a little bit more, this one could have been brilliant. Then this book was probably one of the biggest surprises for me. I received a copy of this, and I think it was from Dream Lab Books, which I think might be a small publisher, and it might be the author publishing her own works under a name to give her more validity in the publishing realm. Now, don't quote me on that, I might be wrong, but this is Stephanie Douglas' debut novel, Calessandra Fractured. Huh. You know? Yeah, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but It was really, really good. So this book is basically about a girl and her dad is kidnapped right in front of her. And he says this coded message to Cassie. And then all of a sudden, the whole freaking earth, the dimension shatters and all the people on earth end up in different dimensions. All the citizens of earth end up else fucking where. Right there, it's like, holy shit balls, man. And that's how it starts, okay? This book literally goes, boom, we are going. And I was hooked. So Cassie wakes up in a place called Cimmerian. It's a terrible place where all the citizens are under scrutiny. Kids taken away from their families at a young age and put into different sections for training and whatnot from age 5, I think, and they have to move through rankings depending on where their skills lie. And she's obviously just turned up there and she's nobody. So they're like, where the fuck do you come from? So they had to, this group of like the resistance have to piece together fabricated story about how she just ended up there and no one knows who the fuck she is. So, my God, okay. And she literally has to work out how she's going to get back to her family because she has a twin sister and a mom that she's fighting her way to get back to. So, firstly, that ending. Oh God, I hate ambiguous endings for a start. And I hate cliffhangers even bloody more, especially when we have no guarantee that there is another book coming. Okay? That was probably my biggest pet peeve with this book was I have questions. You didn't answer them. Will they ever get answered? Because I don't like that. I don't like that one little fucking bit. The one thing that this author did, and I've never seen this done before, but if I'm wondering on, maybe it's further this way. So what she did was she put QR codes in her books, and if you scan them, it plays music. And it kind of like themed to what she's saying. Oh my God. So they call it, and I didn't know this was even a bloody thing, they call it soundtrack enhanced fiction. And I think this might just be my latest obsession with reading because, wow, it really helped put me even further into the story by hearing what they're hearing with music. And I enjoyed the shit out of it. Yes, it does obviously take a little longer to read, but I was all over that. It was wonderful. So Cassie has to change her name and she literally mixes up her real name, Cassie, with the fake one that her mom was telling her she had to use. And she ends up calling herself Calessandra. So whatever, because I'm like, it's kind of a weird name, but it makes sense. Makes sense. And you know what? All of the characters, and this for me is where the magic is, were really well defined. They were really unique. And I really enjoyed all of the characters. I'm really big on there being plot and character development. So I need a little mix of both. And the character development on these were great. I loved everybody. I hated the bad guys with a fierce passion. So that was a win for me. Yes, Cassie was a tad underdeveloped. And she kind of, I don't know, there were some spots in there where just didn't make sense. But you know what? You can overlook that because I did. But I have a massive soft spot for Cassie. So I could overlook some of the shortcomings that seem to have come through in the writing. Now, something that I didn't think was great is it's a sci-fi dystopian novel. Love them. Now, the problem is there was so much vagueness around the sciencey part of how this dimension shift fracturing happened, how they all ended up in different spots. It just bothered me because I had questions about why did this happen and how can they fix it? Can they fix it? You know what I mean? Sci-fi for me needs a what, a who, a when, a how, a circle. Like there has to be a circle of these things to make a sci-fi book complete. And this book just did not have none of that shit in there. None. I didn't feel so good about that, but I did sit down and pretty much read it all in one night. I'm really hoping there's book 2 because I was a little annoyed. I was like, I slammed the book down on my chair next to me and I'm like, what was that? Did you get the bit? Like, I hate that. Now, I gave it a 3.75 stars, almost gave it 4 stars, and had the sci-fi stuff been explained, it probably would have been almost a 5-star book. But I was thoroughly charmed. It was really well written. It was clever. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Like, for a debut novel, this was smashing. Absolutely smashing. Then I got a book. Oh my God, okay. I am still very disturbed by this book. And it's called Not Her, Not Yet by Chelsea O'Hara. So Chelsea reached out to me I think she reached out to me on Instagram, or she may have emailed me. I don't remember which. And I thought she wanted to do a podcast episode, but she's a little shy. She's not ready yet. But she sent me a copy of her book and I read it. And oh my God, she is like the scream queen of psychological thriller. And I'm not even fucking joking. So this book is about Ren, and she has woken up and she has no memories. Okay. And there's this man and he's claiming to be her husband. His name's Caleb. She don't recognize him. She don't feel nothing. She is like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? And so she's having to deal with being in this cabin with this man she doesn't know. There's no internet. He says there's no internet, no phone, no nothing. And she is having to try and figure out who she is, everything about herself. And she literally spends these days, and the things she's learning are not things that she really wants to know. She realizes that Caleb's love comes with strings. He's very controlling, and he has a habit of making her question herself. And she thinks that there might be someone out there that can help her in this town where they are staying. And she realizes that the town is in on it. Yeah. What the momos, man? What the fucking momos? Like, I'm not even joking. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I made the mistake of having all my books lined up. And I'm like, I'm going to read a chapter of each and put them in an order. Well, this book ended up being one of those ones that I read it before bed. Yeah. So I started it and I kept reading until bedtime. And it was so disturbing that I really had trouble dropping off to sleep. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I don't recommend reading this book right at bedtime. I recommend starting it earlier in the day. So I'm just going to sidebar this because she has a whole section in her book about what you can do if you are being abused and you need help. Like, she has note for survivors and resources, which I really appreciated because I am a person who has survived abuse myself. I was with a pretty horrific person who did things like smash holes in walls, made me question my own sanity, gaslit me to death, decided I was too fat and really like made me feel bad about eating. So I got skinny. Then decided that I was too skinny and kept making me eat. So I've been through the psychological torture. Oh, I get Ren, like I get her, like hardcore. Being manipulated and controlled is not okay in any way, shape, or form. So I really appreciated that Chelsea went as far as putting all the triggers at the beginning and then putting resources at the back. I thought that was really sweet. Yeah. So trust me when I say that Chelsea did a really good job of researching and being very clever and sympathetic in the way that she writes. Moving forward. So I had this like thing where I'm sitting and I'm reading this book and I wanted to rescue Ren. Like, I wanted to dive in the page and just pull her out and just get her a cup of tea and make sure she's okay. Like, that's how well this character of Ren was written. Because you have to understand that the way Chelsea wrote this book is that it's all pretty much Ren. And Caleb is not even part of the story very much. We are kind of in Ren's head as she's trying to figure stuff out, which is a really, honestly, it's a risk to write a book where there's no other characters for you to kind of grapple onto if you're not a big fan of the main characters. But they did a really good job of making you feel like you were trapped in the cabin and you were feeling all of these things. And it felt dark and I felt like I wasn't going to get out. And I was scary, really scary. Honestly, it was done so well that, like, even with the way it was, because it wasn't, for me, it wasn't particularly fast paced enough for the way psychological thrillers are supposed to be for me, that it felt like it was moving really slow. Like, the days were really moving quite slow. And we were hearing a lot of things about like the cups and, you know, her making tea and stuff like that, which is fine. But I like my psychological thrillers to move a little faster. But I actually felt like the author did this thing where you kind of felt like you were moving through the motions with Ren and you kind of felt trapped yourself, which I thought was very, very clever. Now, I think what I would have preferred is for maybe to have had less in the cabin with what was going on with Caleb, or to maybe have had more stuff happen. I understand that she was trying to build that tension and it was horrible. Just like, but I think I would have liked to have seen what had happened after the book ended. So I would like to have seen what happened moving forward, because I think there was more I would like to have. I'm eager for more. Like, I would like to have seen where Ren went after that. But the book did this thing where it gets right under your skin without the shock value. You know, when you're reading a book sometimes and they'll say something like really, you're like, oh my God, did that really just happen? This book didn't do that, because that book didn't need to do that. That book literally was like a little wormy worm. And it was like, you were fucking terrified, okay? I was absolutely like, I I could feel myself not breathing right. Like, is she going to get out? Is she going to make it out alive? Like, I was fully invested. It was brilliant. This book was absolutely brilliant. Now, the fact that the town knew that she was being held captive, that she was playing a role, and that he was not a good dude. Oh my God. I don't know. It felt like I was reading a real account of what was happening to a real woman in a real abusive situation. And it was, oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know how she hasn't been picked up by a publishing house. I really don't. Like, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you, because wowza. Wowza fucking wowza. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really did. Now, this episode is running a little long. There was 2 more books that I was going to add to this episode. I won't. I think I will continue it on another day. And that one was On the Edge of After by Britt Wolf. I don't want to rush it, so I'm going to just add that onto another episode because she's a local Calgary author and I really want to spend some time talking about her book. And then I joined a book touring company called Partners in Crime. And they asked me to do a couple of books for them. And I just finished The Regression Strain. And believe it or not, Kevin Huang is going to come on the podcast to do an author interview. And I'm so fucking excited. So I'm not going to rush those 2. I will do those 2 on another day. Maybe because I have other books to read too. I think I have 3 or 4 more indie books. So I might do like an indie part 2, maybe. I don't know, because I really don't want to rush those. But tell me, do you read independent authors? Do you go out and seek books on places like Amazon is probably a good spot to go looking for books. If you go and have a look at the free books, 9 times out of 10, they are from independent authors. If you actually go to my Facebook page, Bookalorian Designs, you will see that I post free books all the time. They are 9 times out of 10 independently released. So you should have a look because some of these authors are really, really good. Some of them are obviously not great, but with some help, if they had the kind of help that you would get from a publishing house as an author, they'd be like, my God, they'd be phenomenal books. So that really irritates me a little bit that not all authors are given the same opportunities. But you know what? I'm going to do my part to try and help along the way as I can. I have set up a bunch of author interviews. I'm just reading the books right now. So there's probably going to be a few of those coming and I'm super excited for that. Because, well, you know, you probably don't mind listening to me yak away. Imagine me having someone to talk to. It would be awesome. So I cannot wait for that. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode and I hope that it has inspired you to try and hopefully go find some small published authors, some indie authors, and maybe give them some love online. Promoting their book on your social medias is free. Telling people and giving them 4 or 5 stars is free and you would really help them out. That's priceless. So if you have enjoyed this episode today, please subscribe to my YouTube channel at L'Adulteress. Maybe give me a subscribe and a little bell ringy so that you know when the next episode is live. You can find me on Spotify too at L'Adulteress. You can find me on my social medias, TikTok at L'Adulteress, Instagram at L'Adulteress Whore. My Facebook page is at L'Adulteress. And I am hoping I will be here Friday, but I don't know if I should just wait and do my Toppling TBR episode with Hannah and get back to my regular scheduled program the following week. So if you do see me Friday, great. If you don't, I will be around on Saturday. Take care, readers. Have a good one.